think for me, quite frankly, they save my life every day. They're the two best things that have ever happened to me. And, I'm always like, I don't know what I would do without them.
Hello, dog people. Welcome again to Rescued by a Dog, a podcast that brings you stories that the world needs right now about dogs who have actually saved their owners' lives. I'm Laura, a mom to two beautiful rescue dogs and author of the novel Not Just a Dog. Today, I'm bringing you the inspiring story of two dogs, Bodhi and Lucy, who pulled their owner Noah up from the depths, becoming his anchor in sobriety. Our sponsor today is one of my favorite companies, Major Darling, which gives us ethically made gear and accessories worthy of our beloved dog children. To check out their gorgeous martingales, leashes, and other products, go to majordarling.com and enter the promo code Rescued by a Dog to get 20% off of your order today. Now for a story about how dogs can help us access our most compassionate selves.
Hi.
Hi.
It's so nice to meet you.
And you as well.
Thank you, Noah, for joining me today to talk about your pups, Bodhi and Lucy.
I can talk about them all day long.
Awesome. I find that it is not hard to get people to talk about their dogs.
Yeah. Especially, there's like two parts. You're either a dog lover or you're not.
Yep.
And I'll tell you a funny story. My trainer and I, we always walk before we sort of lift and Fort McHenry in downtown Baltimore. And I'm not particularly, I'm not as fond of people as I am of dogs.
Same.
And so we'll be walking and he says hi to everybody that walks by, and I'll ignore everybody that walks by. But if they have a dog, he'll start to say to me as they're approaching, he'll say, easy, easy, easy. Because I am like ready to get on the ground and talk to the dog. And sometimes we'll ignore the person. I'll have to remind myself that there's a person attached to the leash of that dog.
And that it's polite to say hi.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So my Instagram sort of information says, I'm suspicious of people who don't like dogs, but I trust a dog when it doesn't like a person. Bill Murray said that.
Oh my God, I love that.
So I got Bodhi in February of, 2016. And I was not looking for a dog. And I suffer from anxiety and depression. I'm a recovering addict. And so my mom had been sort of after me to get a dog for a while. And I just felt like the timing was bad. And I was traveling for work and I was working a lot. I was spending a lot of, that was sort of defining my life at that time was work. And I have two trainers, and so Marissa and Reese. And so Marissa, who is also a big dog person, she and I were working out on an unusually warm February afternoon outside. And this girl walked by with a dog. And Marissa also gets distracted by any dog easily. And so this woman walked by with a dog, and Marissa stopped to talk to her. And, he was really cute. He's a golden retriever pointer mix, short-haired pointer mix, but he has sort of that yellow lab look about him. And he was a little standoffish. He let me pet him, and I have a picture where I'm sort of holding on to him, and his tongue is out, but he wasn't. Some dogs are just overly effusive in their attention, and he wasn't. But he was really cute, and the leash on the dog said, "Adopt me." So Marissa starts talking to this girl about, what's the story, and so the girl says she's fostering him, and Marissa says, "Oh, you should adopt this dog." And I said, I don't have time. I don't have time to adopt this dog. Not really in the cards for me. But I went home, and for some reason I couldn't stop thinking about him, and I thought, I'll go online to the website. I thought I'll fill out some paperwork. I'll sort of put an inquiry in, and if they call me back, then it was meant to be, and we'll go from there.
And so, if he wasn't overly affectionate, what was it about him that made you keep thinking about him?
I don't know. He was just he was so cute, and and I thought he seemed so laid back. I think it was he was so chill, and I didn't hear from them. And I thought, well, maybe they didn't get my email. I'll call the woman that runs the organization, and I'll leave. If I get her, then it was meant to be. So I called her and I left a voicemail, and I didn't hear anything. And I thought, well, I'll try one more time. And if I really don't, then I'm going to move on. so
You weren't about to move on.
So I got her. I think on the third time I got her, she answered, and she said she'd been trying to reach me. And so she came over, and she met us, and I took Jim up to the foster mom's house.
And who is Jim? Is that your partner or
Jim's
another
my partner.
dog?
No,
Okay.
Jim's my partner. And we sat on the floor, and you got a chance to sort of play with Bodhi. And again, he was sort of like standoffish and a little bit cool. He was about 10 months old at that point. And so we decided that we would go ahead and they do sort of a 2-week trial period where they'll put the dog with you. And if for any reason it doesn't work or it's not a good fit, they'll take the dog back and refoster. No questions asked, and so they tell you, don't go out and buy everything. We give you everything sort of to start with. And of course I ran out and I bought everything. And I remember saying, I think that night or the next day, calling Patricia Riska, who runs the program where he came from, that we can just move ahead with the adoption. I was like, we're not going to do this 2-week. We're not going to pretend to go through this for 2 weeks. Like we can proceed
right
as planned.
What was he like when he got home with you?
So the first night, he was again, he was very sort of like, he wasn't cautious in a fearful way. He just wasn't like this run up and jump into your lap type of dog. And I think I liked the idea of a challenge of trying to get this dog to love me. And so in the beginning, it was tough because I wasn't sure he liked me. And initially we had a no dog in the bed, no dog on the furniture rule. And so we had a dog bed for him, and he would sleep in his bed and he never barked. And and I thought, well, this is a great dog to have in an apartment because he doesn't bark, and he doesn't make any noise. And he just and in those early days, like, I mean, he'd go with me everywhere. I mean, I was living in a city, so downtown in the city, so we could walk everywhere, and we'd walk. And he was always great with other dogs. He was, he was fine with other people, and he was super friendly. But he just, he wasn't the dog that ran over every time he saw you. He would, however, the woman that ran Wings of Love, when he would see her, he would get very excited. And I remember being like jealous that he seemed to remember her and like had that connection with her, but he and I hadn't established that yet.
Please tell me that changed. I want this dog to like you so bad.
And so in April of that year, so it was 2017, because in April of that year I turned 40. My friends and family had planned a trip, and so we went to this place in West Virginia. So we brought Bodhi with us, and we thought, it's not our bed, so we'll let him up on the bed. And that was the last time we ever had a no bed rule.
Yep.
For him.
I get that.
And then the dog on the furniture rule went out the window. I just always believed he sort of could sense for me when I was having a tough day or things were a struggle. And so I started taking him everywhere with me. And, and about 6 months or so into having him, we were playing on the floor, and I started to dig in his bed, and he started to dig, and I stopped, and he barked at me. And I remember being like nervous, because I was like, as you're still sort of figuring out dogs and what will trigger them. And I was like, is he nervous? Like, is he barking because he's about to do something? And it's like he found his voice. And so from there on out, he had no problem barking when he wanted something. It's almost like he wasn't sure that this was going to last, so he didn't want to like allow himself to get overly connected to whoever he was with.
So, when did you know he liked you?
I think after he started barking, and realized that he could get into some trouble and nothing was going to happen. Nobody sent him away. So the organization that he came from, Wings of Love, is actually, so he's from Kuwait, and the woman that actually found him when Layla first found him, that's the Russian who found him. He had been sick, and they had sort of gotten him healthier, and got him healthy enough, and then they brought him over to the U.S. And
how old was he when they?
He was about. When they found him, he was newly born. I mean, he was probably maybe a month old or so. So she had him for about. Yeah, so she had him for probably about 8 months or so, and then Wings of Love brought him over to the States. And I think for him, maybe he was a little bit nervous that, he'd had, once he'd been found, taken care of in Kuwait, he'd had a really good existence. And so, until he sort of realized that this was all his now. And we just became like, inseparable. I mean,
and yeah, well, so I was going to ask, what did your relationship end up like after it changed? Like, how does he tell you that he loves you now?
I mean, he, first of all, like, wherever I am, he generally will be. I mean, he likes to, of the two dogs, he's the one that if I want to lay around all day long in bed, he'll lay around all day long in bed with me and be totally happy and comfortable with that. And I'd say the first year, while he was always a good dog, it was a lot of me trying to like figure out if he was going to take to me or like me. And, we would tell him over and over again, this was his forever home. And we also have a place at the beach in Delaware. And so we would take him down there, and he like loved the beach. And about a year after we had him, his personality started to really sort of shine through, and he's just got these like quirks. I drink hint water, and his trick is he likes to take the caps off after you're done drinking. He doesn't chew the bottle, doesn't chew the cap. He just likes to take them off. And so
that's cute.
So when you're drinking a hint and he realizes what it is, he'll come and sit and wait for the bottle. If you pet him under his neck, he'll sort of let out a long moan, and he likes it when he makes these funny sounds as you're petting him. And we decided that it was time to move out of the apartments and look for a house and get a yard. And so when we found the house that we're currently in, we had taken him with us to see the house, and it's a fenced property, and we let him out back, and he just ran, and and it was this time of year, and the leaves are on the ground, and he. Basically, I felt like we were buying him this really nice house we were going to live in, but it was really for him.
So at some point you got a second dog, and that's Lucy.
Did.
And Lucy is a rescue also.
She is a rescue.
And how did she fit in with with Bodhi and your whole family?
The Russian woman that found Bodhi had reached out to me and said that she had found this other dog whose name was Afina, and sent me pictures of Afina, and would we be willing to at least get her to the States and foster her until, we could find a family for her. And she was about 4 months old. And that was a really challenging for me. Jim did better with it. She's also a German short-haired pointer mix. She's Irish setter short-haired pointer. And I think part of it was like getting her trained, and again, getting her acclimated to, she was in the beginning, she was peeing on the bed, And like,
you stuck it out.
We did. And she's so cute and she's such a lover. And so like, and we say all the time, like, we can't imagine life without her and we can't imagine life without them. And, now like the two of them are best friends. And Bodhi was never like, he didn't care about getting in the car, but he was never like a big car person. But Lucy loves driving in the cars and Bodhi loves driving the car now. Like they took best qualities from each other and they integrated them into their own sort of personalities. And, when you would come home and you would wear a baseball hat, Bodhi used to jump up to take the hat off and run around with your hat. Now Lucy does that. And so like, they have these just funny qualities about each other that they've adopted. But they both have these drastically different personalities. And so it's like you get from them, you don't, Lucy gives you energy where Bodhi gives you like stability and calmness.
Oh.
Again, like they moderate my emotions for me. And I can be, I've been told I don't give off always like the friendliest vibe, except when I'm talking about the dogs. And then as you can see, like I could talk about them literally forever because like they're the two best things that have ever happened to me. I'm always like, I don't know what I would do without them. Like I said, I grew up with dogs. I was always a dog person. I just didn't think I was like a crazy dog person. And suddenly, like after having Bodhi for that first year, like it's all I could talk about was like that I had this great dog.
You have had your own really notable struggles in life, and Bodhi and then Lucy, who came later, are really integral to you being alive right now.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that and how they are responsible for you being here with us?
I was, like I said, I had been in rehab in 2012. And so, I was struggling both with mental health and sort of ongoing substance abuse issues. And I'm in therapy. I've been in therapy for over 10 years at this point. And I think, as a lot of people with depression or anxiety at times have experienced, sort of suicidal ideations or suicidal thoughts. When I'm talking about that with my therapist, and I'm in a particularly sort of dark spot, they'll say to me like, well, why wouldn't you do it? And my first answer is the dogs. I can't leave the dogs. The dogs won't understand like what happened to me. They won't know where I am. And I was like, so I can't let anything happen to me because of the dogs. And so that has been a tremendous driver for me in, and I can't say that I've always made good or healthy choices in the time that I've had them, but it is always the reason that I try not to sort of overdo anything or overindulge or certainly have never acted on any of the suicidal ideations because I'm always worried about like, well, what would the dogs think?
Yeah. Is there a moment that you would be willing to share? I know it's super vulnerable, where the dogs were responsible for pulling you out of a bad decision.
I think certainly with Bodhi, I had relapsed one of the times after Bodhi, and was using heroin, and so I decided that I needed to get clean and just sort of stop with it. And and I just like, again, I would look at Bodhi and be like, this dog who came from Kuwait, like who deserves the absolute best. It's amazing, like I'm better, I treat my dogs and feel more strongly about my dogs at times than I do about myself. The idea of like, I can think, I can think of hurting myself far more than I can ever think about hurting. Like that, me thinking about doing something to myself doesn't cause me to sort of tear up or feel sort of this a strong emotional response. The idea of something happening to the dogs, you know, it makes me insanely like emotional.
It's making me
and
emotional.
and so I can't, uh, and if we jump to sort of like right now, I lost my mother 2 weeks ago, and so it's been, it's she and I were really, really close, and again, like to have these two dogs that you know need you to wake up in the morning and take them out and feed them, even sort of in my deepest sort of moments of depression, um, I don't neglect them. I don't like lay around. I mean, again, I live with somebody, but I take my responsibility to them very seriously. So I think for me, quite frankly, they save my life every day.
It's interesting, isn't it, that animals allow us to get in touch with our most sensitive side. Watching a TV show, people are getting blown up right and left, but if something happens to a dog in a TV show, I lose it. I can't watch it anymore. And it's
Totally.
Like there's something in those of us, like you said, there are people who love dogs and people who don't get it. But if you love dogs, there's something about a dog that allows you to access like your most compassionate, your most empathetic self.
It's the only time I feel like I was a really sensitive kid, and I think part of as I became an adult, I sort of closed, and I wasn't. I had a good childhood. I wasn't bullied. I had good friends, but I was sensitive, and I think as kids will tease you about that. I don't think that I was growing up in this overly bullied sort of environment by friends of mine, but I learned to sort of shut that down. And dogs are like the most unconditional givers and lovers, and they don't hold a grudge, and they don't judge you. And dogs are just these unconditional beings. And at the end of the day, like Bodhi and Lucy are still animals, and but they're animals that don't get to choose how they exist, whether they're going to be loved or not. And so my job, as I see it, is to love them unconditionally, the way that they love me. And they love me whether I'm depressed. They love me whether I'm making bad choices. They love me on good days. They love me on bad days. And and so I think every day they just remind me why I want to be here.
God, that's awesome. That's really powerful. Is there any concrete difference in you in a day before you had dogs and a day now? Like, how do you think differently, or is there something you do that's different? Like, what's different about you?
I was I'm very anal retentive, and sort of a bit of a neat freak. And so part of my control issues have always been about the ability I can control whether dishes are put away and beds are made and all of that. I can't control the dogs all the time. I mean, I control them to an extent, but I would joke with my therapist that if the old Noah could see what the Noah with dogs is like, I mean, there's toys everywhere. The bed is almost never made anymore because and the bed, quite frankly, and I'm embarrassed to put this out there publicly, but it's kind of gross. I mean, we have two dogs that sleep in it with us, and they bring dirt in from outside, and we wipe them down, but like and we obviously change the sheets regularly, but there are times where we're sleeping with grass clippings and other stuff, and like and
I mean,
Lucy,
it's just grass.
It's just grass, and and like it has made me more tolerant of sort of mess, and again, probably like people who have children, it has made me a more patient person. And I am not a particularly patient person. And on the days when I have somewhere to be and I'm trying to get Lucy to go to the bathroom and she's distracted by the blade of grass blowing a certain way, or a bird flying over, or a squirrel or a deer or whatever, and I'm like, I need you to do this so I can get going. And I also deal with, so again, I deal with anger issues and all of that. These dogs have made me really have to slow down and again realize that I'm not taking it out on them. They wouldn't understand why suddenly I'm yelling, and I get frustrated, but I always make sure that it's in a way that doesn't feel threatening to them. Or I'll say to Lucy, like, you are a giant pain in my ass today, but I love you, and you sure are cute when you do it. Like, Lucy will, so she's, if she wants attention, she's big at pawing at you. And so I'll be texting or I'll be on my phone and she'll paw at me, and I'll put my phone down and I'll be like, do you need attention? Is that what you need right now? And so I'll give her sort of this undivided, again, Jim and I would probably both agree we're better to the dogs than we are to each other as a couple. He'll be like, I need attention, and I'll be like, I'm busy, I'm texting.
Yeah.
One of the dogs needs attention, and I'm like, let me put this down. What do you need right now? What can I do for you right this minute? What do you need me to, like, snuggle you? Is that what you're looking for? Do I need to rub your belly? What's happening here right now? And
that's just joy, right? That's like a moment of joy that wouldn't have been in your life otherwise, if you get that moment where you're like, yeah, I'm busy, but I'll snuggle you now.
Absolutely. And I think it's the only time again, from an emotional perspective, it's the few times I let myself be vulnerable, like completely vulnerable, is with the dogs. With them, I don't have to put on a front. I don't have to pretend everything's okay. I can just be however I am in the moment, and they accept it. And they don't ask questions. They just accept sort of, dad's sad or dad's this. We tell each of them both of them separately. Jim and I literally will come together and I'll be like, I just told Bodhi how much I loved him. And Jim's like, oh, I was telling him the same thing in my office earlier.
I love that so much. I love how much they trust you, and I love how much you trust them, because I can tell that you do trust them to, like, hold space for you wherever you are, like whatever you're going through. Yeah.
All the time.
It's an incredible gift for a dog to give to a person.
I agree. I could not agree with you more. So, people are like, oh, it's so great you saved them. I'm like, they saved me far more than I saved them. That's the truth.